epiphytic lichens. Now, epiphytic lichens, as the name suggests, grow epiphytically on plants. They grow over the cortex of the tree, on the bark of the tree. So, these lichens are an association of fungi and cyanobacteria. And among in the lichen thallus, 70% or more of the lichen thallus is made up of the fungi, and the rest part is made from algae, either green or blue green algae or cyanobacteria. So, the fungi that are present in the lichen are mostly of Ascogenus, and that is the cup fungi, and a few are Basidomycetes. Basidogenous fungi, that is the sac fungi, like yeast. And the algal portion is consist of either cyanobacteria, that is blue green algae, or green algae. Among cyanobacteria, Nostoc, Cytonema, Stegionema, Glyocapsa, and Calothrix are the species of cyanobacteria that are very common in lichens. And green algae that are common in lichens are Asterochloris, Tribauxia, Trentophylla, Cochimexa, and Dictyochloropsis. Now this lichen, they are very slow growing commensalistic organization, commensalism between the lichen and the between the fungal and the algal partner. The algae, it photosynthesize, and if it is it's a green algae, it only photosynthesize, and if it's a blue green algae, it photosynthesize as well as it fixes nitrogen. So it gets a twin benefit of producing nitrogenous compounds and sugar for the fungi. So fungi get benefited nutritionally by the algal partner, and the algal partner in turn, they are protected from the excessive sunlight or excessive desiccation by the hypha of the fungi. Hello friends, I am Ayantika, and today I'll be discussing about epiphytic lichens. I have made some more videos about lichens. Please subscribe the channel to get access to the to those videos. And so let's start the video. Epiphytic lichens. Now, epiphytic lichen, as the name suggests, it grows on, epiphytically on the bark, that is the periderm of tree. Bark or periderm are just like epidermal tissue, but the only difference is that as the plant is young, there is epidermis, but it grows older. The epidermis is replaced by peridermal or cork tissue. And these epiphytic lichens, they can be found in the tropical, subtropical, temperate region, but mainly it is present in area where there is low amount of pollution, because in industrial area or urban area, the industrial chimney or the smoke stack, they release oxides of carbon and sulfur. Also the automobile extract, they also secrete this they also exhaust fumes also have carbon and sulfur oxides. These oxides, when get deposited in the lichen, it can damage the chlorophyll. So it these gases, they are photoinhibitory if we see the photosynthesis of lichen, because the chlorophyll gets damaged by these gases. Also in the industrial or the urban area, we have heavy metals in particulate form which gets trapped by the lichens. We know that the lichens on the top of on the upper surface, it has certain hair-like structures that are called tomentum. So this hair-like structure, they trap the dust particles and other particles that is present in the atmosphere. That because that is the way they gather dust particles and nutrient. So by the same process, heavy metals get deposited, and we know that heavy metal, even in low trace amount, they are accumulative poison. So in long course of time, they will create a problem with the signaling, cell signaling, or they will harm the general health of the lichen as well as any organism, plants or animals. So lichen, they don't grow in such places. They are mostly epiphytic lichens. They are confined to most of the epiphytic lichens. They are confined to very virgin old growth forest, and where the rate of disturbance is low. However, there are few corticolous lichens like Xanthoria, few Xanthoria species that loves the polluted atmosphere. They love to, they grow in high nitrogen amount atmosphere. This though the lichen containing cyanobacteria, they fixes their own nitrogen, and so they do not need nitrogen in the atmosphere. But species of Xanthoria, they love growing in nitrogen rich atmosphere. Conditions that are conductive for the epiphytic lichens are high precipitation. I mean, not very high precipitation, medium precipitation, so that the atmosphere can be humid, or it can be beach fog, or dew during the night. So epiphytic lichens depend upon the condition. Mostly, the most dominant epiphytic lichen is the crustose lichen, and the crustose lichen are more dominant in the tropical, subtropical region, and the Xanthoria species are found in very in the very dry, polluted area. And the lichens, though they are they prefer high precipitation or high humidity and medium to low temperature, but they do not die out altogether, because there are certain type of lichens that can grow in temperature extremes as well as in what you say in a the humidity extremes, because there are certain species of Xanthoria that are quite xerophytic. Also, we can find many of the lichens growing in the polar or Arctic region. So, epiphytic lichens, they have a wide range of condition on which they can grow because of specific resilience of certain species of lichens. They can grow in almost all type of environmental condition, but general condition for growth is high humidity, medium to low temperature, and low amount of pollutant. This is the picture of Ramalina. We know that this is this this is a very flattened fructicose lichen. This and we can see that the white structures, these are the apothecia, which are the sexual reproductive organs of this epiphytic lichens. Now, this epiphytic lichen, their color is actually depend upon the light intensity as well as the humid condition. Because in high light intensity, we know that the highlight intensity gives rise to more colorful lichen, and And in low light intensity, we have only light greenish, olive green colored lichens. Also, lichen, the upper surface of the upper cortex is differently colored than the lower cortex. The lower cortex have a different color, and also when the lichen is hydrated, then the lichen is usually a much deeper color than the desiccated form. Also, one thing is that the color of lichen also depend upon whether it contain green algae or blue-green algae, because those lichens which have cyanobacteria as their photobiont partner, they will have much darker color, mostly black, gray, brown, in comparison to lichen which have the green algal partner. And also one thing is that this crustose lichen, it as it is a micro lichen. It can absorb less amount of water than the other macro lichens, which are the foliose and fructicose. This foliose and fructicose lichen, they absorb much larger amount of water in comparison to the crustose lichen. So this crustose lichen, they only are present, they are resilient only in the area where there is scarcity of water, because foliose and fructicose lichen, they can absorb large amount of water, and when the temperature rises, they undergo poikilohydry, that I'll be discussing in the next slide. They actually, the foliose lichen, when the temperature rises, it rolls up its leaves so that they can get away with the desiccation, and they start photoinhibition. Just like in many other grasses, during the high temperature or xerophytic condition, we can see this folding of leaves. So this epiphytic lichen, just like other type of lichen, they also are very slow grower, depending upon the type of species. Generally, it's average on an average, the lichen, it reaches, in order to reach maturity, it takes either 4 to 8 years under the temperate to subtropical condition. But in the Arctic condition, Arctic areas, the lichen take very large amount of time, maybe 100 years or 400 years, to just to attain the stage of maturity. Means sexual maturity. So lichens are very slow grower, and they grow radially. And also one thing is that as the lichens are very resilient and they are slow growers, they are one of the most oldest organism on the earth. And this lichen, or mostly the crustose lichen, as we know, they are attached to the bark by many rhizines. The fructicose lichens, which are bushy-like, as in Ramalia, or they are penduloas like Usnea. They are attached to the substratum by a hold first, and the hold fast, or the foliose lichen, they are also attached to the substratum by a hold fast. Now, one thing I should tell you, that this lichen, when the fungi and algae, they are in a commensalistic relation, both the fungal as well as the algal partner, they undergo certain physical chemical changes for this commensalistic relation. And this one of the main physical chemical changes is that the food that is created by the algae, it diffuses out of the algae, or and that is taken by the fungal partner, or the fungal partner, it has certain hold first, or the infection plug like structure that grow inside the algal cells. So the fungal partner either they obtain nutrition by absorbing the whatever material that is that is secreted out of the algal cell, that leaks out of the algal cell, or it uses hold fast to directly extract the nutrient from the algal cell. So this is the chemical physical change that any form of lichen undergo during the process of lichenization. And this lichen this most of the time this lichen are it is a misleading thing that most of the gardeners they consider that lichens they damages the garden, but it is not that lichens growing on a tree, it protects the tree from excess cold, excess water, but most of the lichen they don't harm the tree as a whole, but there are many pathogenic fungi that harm the tree, and we think that the lichen is harming the tree, but it is not. Sometimes the rhizines that enter the cork layer, the peritoneum layer of the bark, are the entry point of pathogenic fungi, and these pathogenic fungi they enter the plant tissue, and they actually this pathogenic fungi actually kills the plant, but the lichen as they are not and dependent upon the tree for their nutritional demand, because they are a self-sufficient mutualistic organism where the food is produced by photosynthesis, even the nitrogen is fixed, and the water or other nutrient they are trapped by the fungi. So this is a self-sufficient nutrient unit, so they don't need the tree for its nutrition, but the pathogenic fungi that enters the tree, they cause the harm of the tree. So lichenized fungi, there can be many lichenized fungi that can also act as pathogenic fungi when it is not in a lichenized form. The lichens they are not harmful for any tree they are growing, but the misconception sometimes happens because this lichen they grow both on healthy tree and as well as dead tree or diseased tree. They grow on young as well as the old tree. So this due to this factor that they grow everywhere, they are actually considered sometimes misconsidered that they are harming the tree, but actually it is not so. This is the picture we see. This is a Dictyonema, that is also another epiphytic lichen growing on the bark of trees. Now, abundance of lichen, it is dependent upon temperature and humidity. Temperature and humidity are the limiting factor on which abundance or growth rate of lichen dependent. How? I'll be explaining. See, the water is absorbed in the form of dew or fog. During the night time, and this nighttime water absorbed during the daytime it is used for photosynthesis, and during the if the temperature is much higher, then the rate of evaporation of water will be higher, and so we also know that in photosynthesis water is a very important ingredient for the electron transport, and so without water there will be inhibition of photosynthesis. So if the temperature is higher, then there will be there will be evaporation of water very rapidly. Then the temperature in low temperature there will be much it will take much higher it will take much more amount of time to evaporate the water that has been absorbed by the lichen. So in high temperature climatic condition, lichen have less amount of photosynthetic time, and in cooler temperature lichen can grow, it can photosynthesize for a much longer period of time, because it will take a longer time for to get rid of to actually lose amount of water. So the temperature and humidity, they determine the photosynthetic period that the lichen can have. So and for as we know that photosynthesis is a process by which all the green plants, they accumulate, they grow, they get the nutrient for growth. So lichen temperature and humidity are a limiting factor, not high sunlight or low sunlight intensity, because the lichen, if it can grow in low sunlight condition, but in high sunlight condition the lichen do not have any photo damage, because the algal cells, they are guarded, they are encased in the fungal hypha, and this fungal hypha, they protect the what to say, the algal cells by producing many photoprotective chemicals like osnic acid. Osnic acid, it is found mostly in lichens that are present in the tropical region. This osnic acid is actually acting as a sunscreen, and so lichens can grow in even high and as well as low intensity of light. Now, poikilohydry and another thing is cryptobiosis. These are the two factors, these are the two phenomena which help the lichen grow under a wide range of condition. Now, poikilohydry is a property by which it is actually, this is a phenomena that is experienced by most of the many type of organisms, and this is a phenomena by which plants actually, there are many plants that cannot control their water balance within their body. This phenomena by which a plant involuntarily loses, plant or animal involuntarily loses water, it is called poikilohydry. And this type of poikilohydry, it is experienced by not only lichen but also many bryophytes and club mosses, and microbes like algae, bacteria, cyanobacteria, so and also the phanerogamson, but also certain animals like the water bear, that is a tardigrade. These also have this phenomena of poikilohydry. But those animals or organisms that are poikilohydric, they have a phenomena of cryptobiosis. That is, it reduces its metabolic activity under the period of desiccation, and this period of inactivation under desiccation helps the organism to survive extensive period of desiccation. This poikilohydry and cryptobiosis are seen in organisms in the upper few organisms that are present in the upper few layers of the upper few centimeters of the top layer of the soil. They make the lichenic crust, or this crustaceous crust, which are present in few millimeters on the upper top soil. And this poikilohydric cryptobiotic lichen, it actually helps the lichen tide over the xerophytic condition. Lichen can remain living even when water content it drops down to only 10% of its body weight, and even lichen can photosynthesize even when the water content is just 20% of body weight. This is the threshold level after 20% of after when the water content is less than 20% of the body weight of the lichen, photosynthesis stops. But however, lichen can thrive even when the water content loses then drops down to 10% of the body weight of the lichen. So this is a very common process, because every lichen, it undergoes a period of desiccation, hydration diurnally as well as seasonally, because at the night time it absorbs water and daytime it loses water. So this is a cyclic hydration desiccation. Though the mechanism is not fully understood, but lichens, they actually have developed many mechanisms by which they can protect yourself from the stress of dehydration. Because when there is dehydration, the there is dehydration but there is sunlight. The sunlight actually excites the chlorophyll molecule. So though there is no water, so chlorophyll, but the electron transport keeps on, and this electron transport that happens in the chlorophyll, ps2, and as well as the ps1 also, this electron transport, it creates reactive oxygen species. Instead of the water, the oxygen gets involved in the electron transport, and reactive oxygen species are produced. Now this reactive oxygen species, they act as a oxidizing agent. This oxidative stress in during the period of desiccation, it is handled by the lichens by several type of stress proteins, some of which are enzymes like the superoxide dismutase and catalase. This SOD and catalase enzyme, they are antioxidant enzyme that helps in reducing the effect of the reactive oxygen species. Also, there are some low molecular antioxidant proteins like glutathione, ascorbic acid, tocopherol, and carotenoids. They also help in reducing the activity of the oxidative stress activity. So these are the mechanism by which the lichens, they tide over the desiccation stress. Well, actually, Ramalina lacera, it is a plant, it is a lichen in which this type of mechanism has been studied. So among the epiphytic lichens, we know that crustose lichen, it is the first to develop in the area. Um, and they are most tolerant to xeric condition, although the folios and fructicales are also very tolerant to xerophytic condition, as all lichens are. And the lichen, actually they do not grow. They do not have a uniform growth cycle. They show spurts of growth, especially during the autumn or the spring season. This is because most of the in the deciduous forest, they lose leaf during this period of time. So the lichens, it gets more sunlight during this period of time. So they photosynthesize more during this period of time and grow more. Actually, there are many type lichen growth. It can be determined, especially the foliose lichen, the crustose, foliose and the fructicose lichen, they increase one lobe or one leaf per season during this period of time. And this is a photo of Cladonia. Though this Cladonia species, it is not only epiphytic, it can also grow on rock, even in on the soil. So they can be both saxicolous and terricolous, like in this Cladonia species. This is a Cladonia species that is epiphytic. Now, we know that epiphytic lichens, they actually grow on the bark. But these are the name of certain species of plants on which bark the lichens usually grow. And the growth of the epiphytic lichens, it does not depend upon the acidity of the bark. Actually, acidity of the bark is not the acids that are produced by the bark. It's just, certain bark, like pine, it secretes resin. Oak, that it secretes tannin. In this way, bark secretes certain compounds that can be acidic or basic, or even the acid in the atmosphere. Say for example, the SO2 or the CO2 or the nitrogen oxides, they get deposited in the bark in the presence of water. They form acid. So, but the lichen, there are different species of lichen. Some are acid lover, some are acidophobic. Some type of lichens, they grow on smooth bark, and some prefer more rough bark. So, there is an alternation of species from young plant to, as a plant grows, there is an alternation of species composition in the bark of the tree. And these are the examples of trees whose bark lichens prefer to grow. But one thing is that this species of lichen that will be growing on bark, it depends upon, number one factor is that whether it is smooth or rough, upon which the species composition will depend. Species composition will also depend upon, number two point is that the pH of the lichen, pH of the bark on which the lichens will grow. Also, the pollution level of the atmosphere, and also the type of lichen will also depend upon the humidity of the surrounding air, and also the temperature. This corticolos epiphytic lichens, they are of various use, because we know that lichens, as the species composition, it depend upon many the species composition changes as the young bark to the old bark. By the lichen composition, we can find out the we can find out the age of the tree. So say for example, very smooth bark hazelnut or magnolia tree, a particular species of lichen will be growing. So by just seeing the type of lichen grown on the bark, we can determine that okay, the plant is young, or what is the age of the plant. And also it will act as a bio indicator of the various pollutants also, because this lichens, they trap various metals or various as a precipitate of acids. So by finding this lichens, if there are certain species of lichens that can grow, they are very hardy species. They can grow on the very polluted area. But just by finding out the species composition in any in any corticolos, cortico any we can just find out the species composition of a bark. Lichens that are present on the bark will tell what is the atmospheric condition, whether it is a polluted or which is a unpolluted, because this picture is of Osnia, and Osnia is usually found in very in area with very low pollution level. And for another species, that is Anthoria, that grows on very high pollution level. So just the type of lichen that is growing on the bark can be a mirror of what type of atmosphere we are in. And also type of lichen also determine the age of the plant. Also, what heavy metals are present in the atmosphere, they can be easily we can easily find out from the lichen, because they are just deposited in the lichen. This lichen, they also have very good economic importance, because number one is that they help in carbon as well as the nutrient, the nitrogen cycling. So carbon and nitrogen cycles, they are this lichen, they take part in carbon and nitrogen cycling. Also they are they are the pioneer species in any ecological succession. Say for example, it is just a, it's a bare bark, crustose or any the other type of lichens grow on them. And this lichen, they are actually the keystone species in this forest type of ecosystem, in the bark ecosystem, because this lichen, they are actually they are food of very many organisms, and they are shelter place for many organisms. Also they are the oviposition sites of many organisms. So this lichen, so the key stone species, if there is no lichen, then it will be endangerment of many other species also. How? I'm telling you. This lichens, they are the oviposition site of orbatids, and these orbatid mites and other type of mites, they lay their eggs on the lichen. Also they also feed on this type of lichen, the larva actually, they feed on this type of lichens. And as the larva feeds, and also sometimes adult they feed, so these insects that are the lichenivorous insects, they are in turn fed by small birds, which are again fed by larger birds. So there is a food chain or food web where this lichen acts as a primary producers. So lichens, they not only are the keystone species or the primary species, they actually are the primary producers of the food chain or food webs. Also, they are the camouflaging. They help in they help many organisms, in camouflage, because there can be, for one example is a long toed salamander, that it actually it camouflages by they grow surrounded in lichen, and their body coloration is similar to the lichens that within which it lives. Also, one another example is that peppered moth. The white peppered moth and the black peppered moth, it actually it camouflages by taking the color of the lichen it is growing, it is surrounded by. White peppered moth, it grows. This is example of England. The white peppered moth, actually white in color, it grows near lichens. That is, it lives actually in near lichens that grows, that is whitish or olive green in color. And the black peppered moth, it grows in area where actually the dark colored or the cyanobacterial lichens are growing. So in this way they are very easily camouflaged. And also this epiphytic lichens, sometimes like especially Usnea species, it is used as a home building material for the birds. Okay, this is the again what I have talked in the previous slide. The food, camouflage, oviposition site, nesting material, and also the protection of the tree. This is the green plant, the green colored species, the Ramalina. We know that is it is actually very pressed, flattened fructiferous lichen. And there are many invertebrates that live in the lichen actually. One vertebrate also lives in the feeds on the lichen, like the flying squirrel. It is actually a type of rodent that feeds on this lichen, though it does not exclusively feed on the lichen, but one of the food material is lichen. And this flying squirrel is actually again fed upon by birds like eagle, So this eagle or other type of hunting or preying bird, they also depend indirectly depend upon lichen for their food, because it is feeding on the squirrel, that is again feeding on the lichen. This is an example. In the picture we see Ramalina. These are the examples or names of various epiphytic corticolous lichen. Also, these are the examples. Now, these are the pictures I should discuss. The very left picture is the Usnea, and Usnea actually. This Usnea is one of the species of Usnea is actually the longest growing lichen, and it is found in the very pristine condition. So this Usnea longissima, it is this picture was taken from forest that is found in California, and this Usnea longissima is the world's largest lichen. It can grow this chair, this hanging. What to say, the hanging folds or branches, it can grow till 6 feet. So the middle of this lichen is Ramalina. We can see the cup-like apothecia, white colored cup-like apothecia growing. And this Ramalina, it is actually flattened, and this is a fructicose. Also, the Usnea is also fructicose lichen, and this they are also used as an environmental, because we know Usnea, it cannot grow in polluted area. So is Ramalina, and the very left is the picture of Ramalina lacera. We see that this is also a fructicose lichen, very flattened, and that's all. Moving on to the next slide. Next slide, the first picture is Parmelia sulcata. We see this is a fructicose lichen, and the middle picture is belongs to Cladonia. There are many species of Cladonia, we know, and but this Cladonia is an epiphytic Cladonia. And the last one is the Sendillaria concolor. As we see the jelly-like cups of the apothecia, yellow colored apothecia that is growing on the top of it. Those are the apothecia, the fruiting bodies of lichens, sexual fruiting bodies of lichens. Moving on to the next slide. These are examples of more epiphytic lichens. The extreme left is Peltigera, and the middle one is Leptharia volpunea, and the last one is Xanthoria parietina. So one thing I should mention, that initial identification of lichen, we can do it by hand lens of 10x magnification, but as advanced study, you can take the triplet hand lens of Bosc and Lomb, and also for more advanced study, you can use the hand lens with LED lights. And also that what type of sometimes it is very confusing what type of lichen it is, because lichens look so, sometimes the few species within a genus also they looks so similar, so we can do a spot test to find out exact species, what type of species is it. This spot test is for basic, but also the spot test can be if we cannot do the spot test, I mean we have done the spot test, that is for basic beginner. With we can do the spot test with potassium hydroxide or phenylalanine diamine, but for advanced studies we can do TLC of the extract of the lichens also. This, the middle picture, which shows the Litharia vulpinea. It is called the wolf lichen because it is actually the lichen extract mixed with the ground powder, and it is then mixed with the carcass of an organism, and the wolf eats this carcass along with the grounded glass and lichen and usually dies. So this Letharia vulpinea, which grows in rough bark, is used as a wolf poison. The very last is the Xanthoria paritiana. So Xanthoria species actually, it's very brightly colored. We can see the apothecial cups, jelly cups also. Sometimes it is called. This Xanthoria, all the Xanthoria species, they are very brightly colored. They are xerophytic species and they are tolerant to high level of pollutants. And this Xanthoria actually. Xanthoria has a different color on different sides of it. Especially the upper side is more colorful than the lower ones. And with this, I come to the end of the video. If you have any question, please do let me know. Please write your questions on the comment section, and please like the video, and if you subscribe the videos, you will be getting more such videos in lichen, algae, and other such videos. So please subscribe this channel, and thank you for watching the video. That's all from my side.